Welcome to Conversations with Aunt Elizabeth, the podcast inspired by my book, I'm a Registered Dietitian, Now What?, where I have the absolute joy to sit back, relax, and have a conversation about nutrition with a variety of people who share their personal story of passion and purpose, especially registered dietitians. Today's conversation is with Allison Riederer, a registered dietitian and founder of Root and Rise Academy, who focuses on career resources and coaching for current and future registered dietitians. Allison and I connected by being on the same cheerleading team for all registered dietitians. She has created a space to help RDs navigate their careers in a positive and productive way. She almost quit her job and almost left the dietetic profession because she wasn't happy with the current job that she was in. This led to her working with a mentor and finding the path of teaching. She is a Dietetic Program Coordinator by day and helps other dietitians in the same circumstances she found herself in by night. So please enjoy my conversation with Allison. Well, as I was just saying before I hit record, I think this podcast is more for me because I am so interested in learning more about you as a human, as a dietitian. And I just love everything that you're doing for our community of dietitians. I secretly think that we need to form a dietitian cheerleader group, and you could be our leader. But I kind of want to know more about Allison. Like, how did you get into dietetics? Maybe we can start there, and then to kind of where you're at now and all the things that you're doing.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. I'm so excited. I think the excitement is mutual here. It's awesome. A little bit about me. I didn't even know what dietitians were when I was in college. I didn't know they existed. I had never heard of one. I did not, I didn't grow up in a family where, my parents were in the medical profession. My mom's a teacher. My dad worked in business. And what I knew of healthcare was really just like, I was lucky. I was very, lucky in the sense that I just knew it as preventative care. And that did not include a dietitian. So I'm in school and studying biochemistry because I'm a huge nerd. And I just kept taking
That's a tough, major, biochemistry. Holy moly.
Well, it's amazing that I can read and write, because if I could just do math equations all day, I would be happy to. That's just how my brain works, and I loved it. And so I just kept taking the classes, and it wasn't that quote unquote easy, but that was the kind of the obvious major. And I never really thought about what I was going to do after that. And so I made it through my biochemistry major, and then I was like, oh crap, I have to get a job. I had no idea what I was going to do. And so I ended up working in one of my professors I went to school at UW-Madison, which has a great dietetics program, but I still didn't know about it. I ended up working in one of my professor's labs as a lab tech. And so I was doing research, bench research with pipettes and all of the bench research things, and hated it. And I would sit there and read articles about nutrition all day. And I would think to myself, gosh, I love learning about how the human body works. I just don't want to go to fill in the blank health professional school, med school, pharmacy school, PA school, nursing school. I didn't want to do any of that. And then all of a sudden I saw the word dietitian, and I was like, what? So I looked it up, and I had one of those really silly, moments where if there were a light bulb above my head, it would have gone off. And I was like, yes, this is what I'm going to do. And so I ended up going back to grad school and doing a coordinated master's program in nutrition science at the University of Utah, where I got a master's degree, and I did all the DPD coursework and my internship all together in 2 years.
Oh my gosh.
And it was great. I loved it. They have a fantastic program. But that's what I did. I became a dietitian, and then I worked in the VA for 3 years. I worked at the Salt Lake City VA. I did renal nutrition, and I ended up an inpatient, and ended up running their weight management program. And that was like my goal job, to run their weight management program. It was, I thought I had the rest of my life laid out in front of me. And then I got the job and quickly realized it wasn't for me. I did well in it, but it just, at that time in my life, I was going through my own, hurdles of health and my relationship with food and my body. And I was in the trenches of my own battle with an eating disorder. And so the two just didn't go together. And so I had this moment where I was like, I don't understand. How can I do this profession while also not knowing, like, I'm still evolving my true feelings about food. And luckily I was able to make it through that. But in that, as I was, getting treatment and coming out of the trenches of that, I had the opportunity to teach. And again, it was like this light bulb went off. It was just, I had been through my own evolution of not only learning about food, but also learning how I understand food culture to be and how our body uses food and how our culture can manipulate that and all of the kind of mental garbage that diet culture has given us. And so then I had this amazing opportunity to teach college students and teach them about nutrition, but then also like share with them this idea that like it doesn't have to be scary. And I went on to teach. I taught at the University of Utah for the past 5 years. And just recently I took a position managing a coordinated master's program at the University of Minnesota. And that's what I'm doing now.
That's really so. I mean, like, how did you just get an opportunity to teach? How does that happen?
No, it was not that easy. So when I was in school, it was a combination. Long story short, it was a combination of hard work and like always giving my best in something and maintaining relationships. So here's what I always tell students, dietitians, anyone I talk to. Your relationships are the center of your life. And that's your personal life. That's your professional life. In this case, I'm talking about my professional life. So when I was in school, I worked my butt off. I didn't know how to say no, which was, my own battle that I had to learn to hold boundaries and say no, but I just constantly went above and beyond. And so I left school with some really great relationships, and I really had clicked with our program director at the time, and she had kind of become my mentor. And so I stayed in communication with her. I didn't just leave and never look back. And so she was a part of my life as I went through my first several years of my career, and kind of had my like dietetics career personal crisis, so to speak. And all along I had been talking to her about like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't even know if I'm going to be a dietitian anymore. At one point in time, I was going to go to PA school. At another point in time, I was going to be a biomedical engineer. And then I thought I was going to be a social worker. I mean, I had all the plans. And she said, well, listen, we have one night class that needs to be taught, and we need coverage for one semester. And, it's advanced nutrition. You're a biochemistry major. You really excelled in this class and in all of your kind of classes here. What do you think of doing a one-off adjunct teaching position? Don't quit your job. It's at night. It was totally up to you. And I said, yes. And so I tried it, and it was tough. It was a tough semester. Teaching is not easy. But I did it, and it was great. And this is a little bit of luck. They happen to have a position open up for what they call a career line instructor. So an instructor who doesn't do research, just year-to-year contract and teaches. And I applied, and I think, because of because of my performance in school, because of my performance teaching that one class, because of the relationships I had built, I was offered the position.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, and make no mistake, it was probably a 30% pay cut. I mean, it was, I made the decision for my happiness. I made the decision for other values. And this is, here's another thing I talk to dietitians about. You got to pay your bills, but money is not the end all be all. And that was a decision I made in my career that was not about money. And it was the best decision I've ever made.
I think that right there, is a huge thing that doesn't get talked about enough because, well, first of all, we didn't go into dietetics thinking that we were going to make a lot of money, did we?
Right? Seriously. I mean, I sometimes, and this is not going to be I know this is not a popular thing to say, like, yes, we need to make more money. But sometimes when I hear people talk about, we don't make money, I'm like, seriously? Are you just realizing that?
Right.
We knew this. We knew this.
Yes, we did. Well, I also think that if you're basing, which a lot of people do base their happiness on money, and they forget like why they're in the profession in the first place, then you probably shouldn't be in that profession.
Yes.
If that's all you're focused on.
And you know what I think? My suspicion, and I don't necessarily have data to back this up, but my suspicion is when people complain about not getting paid enough, you could take that anything referencing money out, and it's actually, I'm not respected. I don't feel valued at work. I don't feel effective at my job. My job doesn't align with my personality or my values. Like I don't believe it's actually about the money. I think there's something about the career paths that people end up in dietetics that is unfulfilling.
I would 100% agree with you.
Yeah, I think it's because we aren't taught how to find jobs that light us up. We aren't taught to critically evaluate who we are and what we know and what we value to combine and streamline that into our careers. We're not taught that. We're taught a lot of other things about scoop sizes and tube feeding and how to make mashed potatoes, but we're not taught how to navigate our careers.
Well, and your situation is perfect example with that. Just like you were a young dietitian, you were ready to get out. You were like, I'm done. I don't think I want to do this. I mean, you'd been a dietitian for how long when you kind of felt that way?
2 years.
2 years. Yeah. And I just talked to a dietitian last night. She felt that 6 months after becoming a dietitian. I've
had people reach out to me since I've been, with Root and Rise Academy on Instagram. I've had people reach out to me that are in their internships. And they've said, and these are anecdotal, right? But they've said, I can't turn back. Like, it's too late, but like, I don't like this.
Oh my gosh.
And
so how do you,
go ahead.
I was like, how do you talk to someone about that? And that's hard because that's, like you said, yes, you can turn back or yes, you can quit or whatever you want to do. But is it for the right reasons or the wrong reasons, or they just don't know what they're going to do as a dietitian, or they're just unclear of their future as in this profession?
Yeah, I think, I think every person is individual. And so I think the way that I approach it is kind of the same way that I approached it with myself, which was through a little bit of trial and error. So, when I have conversations like this with people, I say like, okay, tell me what you don't like. Tell me what you like. And then tell me what you thought this was going to be like and tell me what it actually is like. And as we talk through the pain points and the frustrations, but also the wins and the successes and what they liked studying in school and all of that, oftentimes, not every single time, but oftentimes you can start to see, oh, well, have you ever thought about, going into the space of like public education and working in educating kids about food as it relates to the cafeteria and planning menus and things? Have you ever thought about that? And they might say, well, yeah, I thought about it, but my internship rotation was so XYZ, I would never do it. And it's like, well, maybe we need to like open up your idea of what that could look like. Because I think there are so many things we can do as dietitians, but we are not taught how to do them and find them. You know, I listen to your podcast, and we have these amazing dietitians that are doing phenomenal things, and they have found their way, but how? You know, like when a person is graduating, when they're 6 months out of school, how can you help that person have faith that they're going to actually be able to find their way to that? And it's through having these conversations, I think, and having like a mentor or kind of like you said, like a cheerleader, like a career cheerleader to say, like, don't sell yourself short. Like, know your value, know what you like, know what you don't like, and let's sit down and find it.
And so do you feel like when you, obviously, like you said, you had your own personal struggles, like with an eating disorder, and you were in this job where you were having to teach weight loss, and there was a conflict for you personally. Mm-hmm. Don't you feel like, I feel like that happens often for many dietitians, but they just stay in a job because it's a job, it's stability, it's a paycheck, it's insurance, and it's all those things. And so they're just like, well, you know, I don't have a choice. This is it. This is it for me. And I don't know what else I'm going to do. And so like with your personal experience, you did the complete opposite. You were like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. And so does that where Root and Rise Academy kind of came from? Was this the space that you wanted to fill, knowing your own personal experience is happening to so many other people?
Yes, I think Root and Rise Academy came out of, I had the idea, not the idea, but I had the itch to do something like this. Honestly, a couple of years ago when I was working at the University of Utah and working with dietetic students that would come to me and say like, but what do I do now? Like, what do I do? And I knew I had gone through it, and I had heard other colleagues that had gone through it. And I just thought to myself, like, we need like support. And don't get me wrong, the Academy does have professional development support. They do. That's not to say it's not out there, but support in a way that feels like it's your friend, or feels like it's your, like you're sitting down with a cup of coffee and just talking with somebody about it, and talking openly and without judgment, without expectation. And like, that's really where Root and Rise came from, is wanting to create a space where people feel comfortable to just say, whoa, put the brakes on. Like, this is not what I expected. Maybe I feel kind of stuck, but I can't talk to my boss about it. And I'm not in contact with people from school anymore, and I don't want to talk to my colleagues about it, and my parents don't get it, and my best friend doesn't get it, my partner doesn't get it. You know, I want to talk to somebody who gets it. And that's really what Root and Rise is designed to be, is to have, you know, that place where someone's like, yeah, I get it.
And you can understand, I guess I like your approach because, like you said, so many people don't understand unless they're in it, especially in our profession. You don't get a dietitian unless you are one, I don't think. Yeah. And you don't need someone to sugarcoat anything for you at that point. You need someone to just be like, hey, here's the deal. Let's talk about it, but let's be realistic about it too. So I like that conversation piece and that ability to like be realistic in the conversation.
Yeah. And, you know, here's the thing. I think the way that our dietetics education system is set up is, you know, we get a lot of support as we're becoming dietitians. And then if we don't, you know, then it's just kind of not gone, but it dissipates. And that, like, you don't become a dietitian by accident. Like, it is not a profession where you're like, well, I guess I'll just do this. Like that just is not possible. And like, we fight so hard to become dietitians. I think sometimes I think people maybe expect their career to be like the victory lap. And that's just not the way it works.
That's interesting. No, you're right. And I always think back to the end of my internship. I remember the last day of my internship, and I remember our director, she read us this little book, and then she was like, okay, bye, good luck. And it was just like, that's it? Like, that's all we get? And I felt like, oh my God, that's depressing. We just did this for how many months? And you don't get that support after you finish your internship. It's like done.
Yeah. And, like, I on one hand, I get it, because to be fair, like, internship programs, and I mean, now even as a program director, I'm like, yeah, right. I want to support you. I want to be there for you. And if you reach out to me, I will be there for you. But also, I got 22 students plus over here that like need me now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I think we also have to get not in the habit, but like, we have to almost normalize talking about these things. Because I think the idea of going back to a program director or reaching out to a colleague or even reaching out to a mentor or a coach or something like that is like, I don't want to say admitting failure, but it's almost like people don't want to admit, like, I need help. I don't like this. Sometimes I think people would rather just find another profession, which is sad. And that's why, like, we have to normalize the fact that, like, it's okay to struggle and try to find your way.
And I was with you. I'm the same way. Like, I felt the same way you did. Like, there was a point where I was like, I just don't want to do this anymore. I don't know why. Mm-hmm. I just don't want to do it. But I ended up having to have someone to, like, in the dietetics field, like, be like, well, why don't you like it? Like, kind of what you're doing, and talk you through it, and just find out what the real reason is of why you don't, before you just leap and go. Like, you need to do some investigating. And I love that that's what you're doing.
Yeah. And I that's what I say to people. I say, listen, like, you need to do the work. Like, before you turn around and invest any more time or money into another path, do the work. Because you've already invested time and money into this path, and there might be something out there that you just haven't seen yet.
So true. So like, maybe walk me through, I know that how do you balance your job, your director job, and the Root and Rise Academy? Like, how do you balance it all out?
I don't. Is the short answer. The long answer is, my day job comes first. It has to. I love it. It's challenging in really good ways, and in really hard ways, but your job is supposed to challenge you. Like, we're supposed to grow in our jobs. And so at least that's what I want. That's one of my values. Everybody is different, but one of my values is a job that pushes me where I grow. And so my day job, my program director job, comes first, and Root and Rise fills in kind of the cracks of time that I can get it in. I don't do it particularly well, which admittedly is why sometimes I ghost Instagram, because I am in the thick of my life outside of work and my life in work. And I just can't even come up for air. And if I do, it's not for Instagram.
Oh, sure.
And that's one of the things that I'm constantly trying to work on, because this is Root and Rise Academy is something I really, truly, believe in. But it is a matter of, like, they say we like fill your cup with the big rocks first, and then the smaller rocks, and then the sand. And so, like, I have to figure out what my big rocks are, and my big rocks right now are my family and my job, which supports my family. And so, balance is a myth. I don't really think I think work and life for me, because the nature of being in academia, work and life just like blend together into this really great shade of gray that I paint my whole house in.
I like that. That's a good analogy.
Yeah. That's the educator in me. My analogies are either like spot on or it leaves people like, what?
Like, what is she talking about?
Yes.
You get that blank look at you going, huh?
And then like the handful of students in the audience that give me a courtesy laugh.
Oh, sure. They're like, yeah. Okay.
There she goes again.
Well, and I'm sure being a program coordinator, that's not just, these are your office hours and that's it, because you, again, have to take care of students and have to take care of preceptors and you have all this stuff going on. So it's not probably just, hey, this is my window and I'll get everything done in this time.
Right. Yeah, no, that's true. And it is, it's an unbelievably challenging job and a demanding job and a job that comes with a ton of responsibility because, it sounds maybe, I don't mean to inflate it, but in a very small way, I'm helping to shape, the field of dietetics as far as like dietitians going into the field. Mm-hmm. And so it carries an immense amount of responsibility. But that's kind of why I went into it, because I experienced such great mentors and such great preceptors and such great instructors and professors at the University of Utah that I wanted to, try to be that for other dietitians. And it was those experiences and those relationships that I think kept me in the field when I would have otherwise left.
And that's why I think everyone needs to be a preceptor or some type of preceptor or mentor or something sometime in your career, because you're missing out on such a huge opportunity to either reignite your passion for the profession or just be helpful along a crossing for someone who's in the field. Or the impact is crazy and you don't even really realize it unless you do it.
It is. And, don't get me wrong. It doesn't make your job easier. It doesn't save you time. No. But there is that element of, I don't know if excitement is the word, but just like refreshing that can happen. And, students even have the amazing ability to like teach preceptors things. Like I hardly knew what Canva was, the like graphic design app, before I had a student back in Utah. And I remember being like, where are all these people getting these amazing, graphics or, Instagram posts or flyer designs? And they were like, well, Canva. And I was like, I'm sorry, what now?
What is that?
Yeah.
Yes. I agree with you. They teach you. That's why I like having them, because I always learn something every time. Mm-hmm. So go ahead. I was saying, so when you work and have those opportunities, like being a preceptor or a mentor, is that kind of the take that you are doing with your Room Rise? Are you taking clients? Like maybe walk me through the process of working with you. Like if someone's in that crossroads in their life, their profession, what does that look like?
Yeah. So at Root and Rise, I have a couple different ways of working with people. I do have virtual group workshops that I put on, and that is where I basically have a workbook that I've developed. And when people sign up for the workshop, they get the workbook. They do the like introspection and self-reflection and kind of fill out what their ideal day is, and just kind of do the like quote unquote work of thinking through themselves and their interests. And then at the workshop is designed to put it all together and create a plan for moving forward. And so it's a matter of saying, okay, now you've done this work. You've thought through what your interests are, what your passions are, what your skill set is, where your knowledge lies. And then also like what kind of compensation, benefits, work environment you want. So let's get on a call, and I'll have, several people on a call together, and we'll do some different like case studies that I've designed of saying, okay, here's a rundown of what somebody had written on their sheet. Here are some examples of careers and jobs that she or he or they might pursue. And here's why. And so I kind of help them take that vision of, okay, I've done all this work of thinking through myself and my interests and values and all of that. But what does that mean as far as my dietetics career? So I have that as kind of a group program. And then there's also kind of individual coaching. And when I do individual career coaching with people, it's a matter of taking that whole process and just really breaking it down on an individual level. And there's just a little bit more there's just a one-on-one aspect to it where we actually have the conversations, and that, is going to add accountability, and it's going to add, some more thought-provoking questions. Like we can go down a path of, I'll ask a question of, okay, so this is my favorite one, and I think you've seen it before, but if adulting weren't a thing, what would you do? Mm-hmm. And the answer is totally entertaining, but then there's something to be gleaned from that answer, because what I would do if adulting didn't matter, so if money and healthcare and insurance and retirement and putting a roof over my daughter's head, if none of that mattered, I would be a Broadway performer. Unfortunately, I have no talent. And so that is not a viable career path for me, for a myriad of reasons, talent just being one of the reasons. But I teach, and I love teaching. And in a sense, like that is my version of Broadway. I mean, I don't sing or dance, but like I'm running all over the stage and I'm like getting people out of their seats. It is an educational performance for me. And so, the one-on-one work, the coaching allows me to give that kind of in-person feedback and dynamic feedback of saying, okay, I hear you saying this. Can you see how this could translate into this part of dietetics? And oftentimes people don't see it because we're taught this like tunnel vision of like, we can do clinical, or we can do public health, or we can do food service. And what exists beyond that is like in the kind of in the shadows, and people don't always realize it. And so my whole process broken down is a matter of getting people to look at their interests and passions, their knowledge and skill, and then the kind of compensation and work environment they need or want. And where all of those things overlap is, where we're going to find that sweet spot of their career. And there are always going to be compromises, but until you know what you're looking for, it's hard to find your dream career.
And it's hard to figure out the compromises that you're willing to do.
Exactly. One of the things that got me down the path of Root and Rise Academy, and I haven't been able to build it out yet. And so, if someone's listening to this and they want to build it out, run with it. But it's a matter of giving some support and resources around parents who are coming, or anyone who's coming back from an extended leave, like an extended work employment break.
Sure. Okay.
And how can we support them getting back in the workforce if they want, and in a way that they want? So, I have a toddler, and I happen to work full time outside the home. But what if I wanted to take 2 years off and be with my daughter and then go back to work part-time, but with a flexible schedule, or work from home part-time? What would that look like? And there are not resources to help those men and women balance. Okay, I'm coming back from an extended break. How do I get back in, and how do I make it fit my reality of being somewhere along the scale of not working and working full time, because those are not the only two options.
Yeah. But I think a lot of people think that is the only option. If you don't
Exactly.
do that, then you're not going to find a good career. You're not going to find a great job.
Yeah. And, that's one of the big misconceptions. And I think it keeps some really talented and passionate people out of the workforce. And like, I am 100% supportive of anyone's choice of what, not working. It's, I'm not saying anyone should do one thing, but I want people to feel supported in doing exactly what they want to do. And when you're falling in between the black or white, stay home or work, there's not a lot of support there to help you navigate that. And that's one of the future directions of Root and Rise. It's one of the things I kind of can help people do now, but at the same point in time, like, the more the merrier. If anybody else wants to do it and help people, let's get this train going.
Let's start it.
Yeah.
What do you feel? So thinking about, like you said earlier, you were talking about how people aren't feeling like they're compensated for their job enough, but it's not necessarily the money part. It's all these other things. So what do you think? Where do you see the common trend of dietitians being dissatisfied with their current jobs?
Ooh, that's a good one. Well, I think, dietetics is a profession that's inherently in tension, I would say, not conflict, but just in tension with, anyone that eats who calls themselves a food expert, and so it's, I think what I commonly hear people talking about in dietetics is, well, we're the real food experts. Well, why don't people talk to us? Well, why don't people ask us? So I get the sense that it's just this idea of lack of recognition and respect and being valued. And yeah, we work hard and we work hard to become dietitians, and we pay a lot of money to become dietitians, and we put in a lot of time and energy to become dietitians, only to then go out in the world. And if you're operating outside of a hospital, maybe you have a colleague who's doing a very similar job who isn't a quote unquote dietitian, doesn't have the credentials. And so I think that introduces a lot of frustration into our workforce. And, I think it's really challenging because that is very real. Like that is real. It's hard to feel like you work so hard for something and for a set of skills and a set of knowledge, and then it's not utilized or respected. But I think there's how do I say this? I think there's other places to look for satisfaction, and they come from jobs that light you up, jobs that just, yes, there are hard days, and yes, there are rough patches, and yes, you come across weeks that are just crappy. But where the majority of the time, you come home thinking, I like what I do. It's less about maybe the recognition and less about feeling valued and more about having that sense of like, I did something helpful today. Mm-hmm. And when we're not feeling valued and we're not feeling maybe even recognized, it's hard to feel like you're doing something helpful. And isn't that a big reason of why we got into dietetics, is to help people?
Absolutely.
And, of course, we all want to feel good at our jobs.
But there's no perfect job. And I think,
nope.
I don't know. I feel like the internship is great, but I also feel like it definitely is it's just so positive and it's so exciting, mm-hmm. and there's so much new stuff, and it just keeps the intern on this high the whole time. And I think it's a big letdown after they actually get into the workforce. And then they're like, wait, this is what it is. Like, this is depressing.
Absolutely. And because there's no easy way around it, but I talked to some of our amazing preceptors and they're like, and this day they're going to see this, and this day I'm going to send them here, and this day they're going to see this. And part of me, I don't, let me be clear, I don't do this, but part of me is like, let's just show them the day to day, like what your job actually looks like. Because I think the internship sometimes can be misleading because you're hopping all around. They give you often, not always, but they give you, interesting cases and interesting projects, and you're out in the community, or you're, developing a menu, and it negates the fact that our job is not always that exciting.
Right. You have to grind it out some days. It's not always just like, woohoo, this is exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. And and so if you really step back and think about it, so you're totally right. You go through this internship that's like, bing, bang, boom, hi here, exciting there. Maybe like, okay, I didn't like that, but it was short. It was short-lived. So I get to move on to something else. And then all of a sudden you're just like shot out into space. And it's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Wait, now my job is like, not as exciting, and my patients aren't listening to me, and I can't get patients to show up. And, my stakeholders in the community are like not cooperating and all the things.
Not responding to my email. Yes. And I think, and that's why I think like what you're doing with Root and Rise is fantastic, because it doesn't matter if you're in year 1 or if you're in year 30 of your career. You don't have to settle. You don't have to be in the same place, but you do have to figure out what you want out of your career and your life. They all go together, and you just need some help navigating that.
Yes. And I think there's a mindset element to when you can say, okay, I don't love this job, but this job allows me to have flexibility to make sure that I can be home when I want to be home, or this job gives me the benefits that I need to take care of myself right now, or this job is helping me pay the bills, and I am going to start exploring and doing the work to find my next path. It's like a little bit of mindset work of, okay, it's not great now, but this is why I'm here. This is why I'm staying, and I'm making the choice to stay, as opposed to like, you see those memes of like a dog that walks itself into a corner and then it says like, well, I guess I just live here now.
Yes.
Like that's not, you don't have to be that. You're not stuck. Make your choices with intention. And if you stay in a job that you're not happy in, know why and have a plan.
That's so good.
And that can make a big difference for people, as opposed to just kind of letting the wind blow them whatever direction the wind happens to be blowing.
Because if you don't have a plan, then you don't have like a purpose. I think your plan helps you either keep thinking about it or keep doing things to get towards the plan or to work through the plan if you're not happy in your current job. So you have to, like you said, you have to have some type of a plan.
Absolutely. And I mean, you think about, not all dietitians are type A, but you think of the stereotype of dietitians, we don't like to operate without plans.
No.
And so, it's like, yeah, let's sit down and let's make a plan. Even if you don't. So another thing that I work with people on is saying, okay, here's where you are in your career right now. Here's what you like and don't like. Let's do the work of exploring where you might want to go. And then let's make a plan of how you're going to get there in 3 years or 5 years. Or, I kind of let clients, call the timeline. And even if life changes and your plan changes, having that sense of like, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm doing it. These are the relationships I'm really focusing on building because I love these people and I like supporting them. And in turn, they like supporting me. And these are this is what I'm doing. And this is why. It's so helpful. even if that plan changes.
Maybe. So I know we were talking about just kind of make sure that you're nurturing all sides of your life. Like your career is a big part of your life, but your personal life and making sure that you're also paying attention to those parts of your life too, because that can also affect, I think, your satisfaction in your job. If home life sucks, then work, you can't even like focus on work. So I feel like that could be an issue that a lot of people do struggle with too.
Yeah. And I think, I think it goes both ways. I think we all have to get better at giving ourselves like grace and saying like, okay, this part of my life, whether it's professional, personal, family, health, whatever it is, this part of my life needs to be like moved up my priorities right now for the time being, which means other things need to move down. And I'm not going to I'm not going to get fired from my job, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be like in it every day trying to like, I'm just in maintenance mode because this other part of my life needs me. And then sometimes that switches and your job needs you. And the other part of your life kind of like goes to the, not off the burner, but just like to the side a little bit. And I think so often we get stuck in this cycle of no, everything's important and everything needs 100% of my attention. And I need to be the best at everything and on top of my game at everything. And we're so hard on ourselves that we end up running ourselves into the ground. And that's where burnout comes in. And that's why I'm so glad Jess at Empowering Dietitians is doing what she's doing, because we also need people talking about burnout and taking care of ourselves and boundary setting and all of these other parts of living happy and healthy lives that can be hard.
Absolutely. And it's okay to feel that way. Like it's okay that you feel burnout, or it's okay if you don't feel like everything's going as planned. But the biggest part of that is finding help, finding someone that can help you navigate those things.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes it takes asking for help, maybe in a couple different ways. Like we are so hard at we're so bad at asking for help that like one time in the middle of a conversation, I'll say like, oh yeah, I could really use help with this, but you know what? It's not that big of a deal. And then an hour later, I'm like, well, I asked for help. It's like, no, you didn't.
Yeah. I can relate to that too.
I know, we're so good at minimizing and trying to just make it all work and make it all happen. But like the older I get, I guess, the more I realize, and usually the hard way, that like I am not alone in any part of my life. And even though I might think if it's to be, it's up to me, like I not only have to ask for help, but then when somebody offers it, I have to say yes. Because I can't even tell you how many times someone, just in different areas of life, asks like, hey, can I help with XYZ? And I'm like, no, nope, I got it. But, thanks. I'll let you know.
Done that too. It's like, oh no, it's okay. I got it. It's no big deal. Yeah. Then under my breath, I'm like, oh, I can't do all of this.
I know. And then it's like, why am I so alone? It's like, well, because you drove everyone away.
You did that to yourself, girl.
Well, gosh, we're just the best.
We recognize it though, and that's good. Like we know we're that way. It can also be our first asset too. Yeah. I mean, it's a catch-22 in that way too. But I think like you said, Jess, and I think there's just so many people that are out there as dietitians that are doing fantastic things to support other dietitians. And I think that's why I was drawn to you so much. And I wanted you to share more about what you do, because it's a very unique, I just love your Instagram posts are fantastic. They're informative, they're realistic, and they usually touch on something that a person is feeling that day or has felt once in their life. So I think all dietitians can relate to what you're putting out there and definitely could use your assistance.
Oh, thanks. That's so kind of you to say. I think in our profession, and this is one of the things that I try to do with Root and Rise, is like, we struggle enough. Like, we don't need to, I feel trite saying this, right? Because it's like such a stereotypically female thing to do. But like, we don't need to tear each other down. Like, what we need to do is lift each other up. And like, we all at one point or another are struggling, and at one point or another need each other and need someone around them to just look at them and say, I see you and you are doing a good job. And I don't care if you got your note done in 24 hours. You are doing the best that you can. And I see that, and I see you, and me seeing you doesn't mean that I'm not doing a good job. Mm-hmm. Like, we have to, like, this abundance mindset, like, we have to understand that, like, okay, just because I'm talking about how to figure out your career doesn't mean we don't need 500 other people talking about how to figure out your career, because you know what? I'm going to talk about it in a different way that someone else talks about it, and that's going to resonate with someone different. And the more we talk about it, the better it's going to get. And like, we all just, maybe I'm being too kumbaya, but like, no, we all just need to recognize that, like, hello, there's space for all of us. And just because someone's over there doing something awesome doesn't mean that what you're doing is any less awesome.
Right. And we all can win if we support each other and create that space where we all fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, how cool to see, like, aren't we all out here to like make dietetics better?
Yeah.
And so like, why wouldn't we support each other? Because for every person out there doing something good, our profession gets better.
Right. Right. And other people recognize that, not just dietitians, but other professions and other professionals and other entities. And that's the kind of message we want to put out there. So then we get that positive reaction and feedback.
Yeah. Yeah. And, sometimes I think it's, instead of like, I think there's work to be done to elevate our profession, period. I see that. I recognize that. But I think sometimes doing that work can mean us just almost putting our heads down and just doing a great job. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean always saying, no, we want more money, more recognition, more this, more that. Like, what if part of the strategy was us just showing up in amazing ways and then waiting for the opportunity to be like, oh, did you see all these things that I did that are equivalent to this other person, and they get paid this and I get paid this? That's a problem. Mm-hmm. So it's just a matter of, it's sometimes how we approach those compensation conversations, which is another thing that, we're not necessarily taught how to do.
No, gosh, no. It needs to be like dietitian internship part 2, the real deal.
I know.
That would be pretty awesome, but that's that
would be amazing.
Kind of what you're doing though, a little bit in your Root and Rise Academy, which is really cool.
Yeah, thanks. I'm trying, and I think it's I remember when I was talking with one of my colleagues, and I was talking to her about this, and I remember saying, because like starting something is terrifying. Mm-hmm. And even if you believe in it, and even if you know that it's important, it's still scary to be the one to like stand up and say, I have something to say. Even if it's on Instagram, even if it's to no one, even if it's scary, period. And so I remember early on when I was starting Root and Rise, I thought to myself, well, maybe I'll just get on and I'll put my idea out there and hope that someone steals it. And then goes on and does like amazing things with it, because that's just too scary. And, I had to get over that. And, we need more people doing this work. So it's not stealing is not the way that I look at it. But like, I was like, maybe I could just give somebody else the idea and they could do the work. And it's like, no, Allison, you have to like if you want other people to stand up and be brave and share, like say their piece and whatever their message is, say it and show up in this world, like you have to do that too.
You have to do the scary things too.
Yes. And it is scary. I still remember when I posted my first Instagram story. I don't know what I thought was going to happen, but like I posted it and then I threw my phone across the room and I ran away from it.
It was going to bite you.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh.
I thought like maybe if I just hide from my phone, no one will see it and no one will have anything constructive to say and no one will have it. I'm just going to run away.
You are so funny. That's hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
See how far you've come even in yourself. You know, like people probably perceive you as this like very strong and like, I got my shit together type person. And you're like, yeah, I run away from my phone.
I literally buried my phone in pillows and super awesome. Cool. At least I don't do that anymore, but still it's kind of like, I think we're so trained to like, I don't know, maybe I don't want to make it a female thing, but maybe it's a female thing. We're so trained to like, you know, be aware of what other people think and say and perceive and like not ruffle feathers and all this stuff. And it's like, I'm not even ruffling feathers and still like sharing a message I'm passionate about is like scary. And it's just like, oh man,
that's the thing.
I need to get over that.
It's ingrained deep in us. Like we don't even know, like you said, we don't even know where it comes from, but it is. It's just part of like our genetic makeup or something. Like we don't want to make waves. We don't want to upset anybody. We don't want to do anything to like hurt someone's feelings. And it's like, who cares? Just do it.
Yeah. And I think like as long as we're remaining open and on, like, here's the thing, like we all need to get more comfortable learning like in public, and to learn in public is to make mistakes
for sure.
And like we have, you know, this is a tangent, but like we talk so much, like Tamara and the Diversified Dietetics group is doing such amazing things, and it can be such a scary thing and a vulnerable thing to like engage and talk about it and learn. But like, how are we ever going to change if we don't learn? And we have to learn publicly. It's just the way. We can't hide until we're perfect and then come out.
Right.
That's not the way the world works.
Right. No. Then you're not doing a service to anyone by running away and then just popping out when everything's like you think is good to go.
Right. And regardless of what it is that applies to you, like what it is you're working on. And in this case, kind of going back to Root and Rise, it was like, gosh darn it. Like if I post one thing and it makes somebody feel less alone, or it gives them an idea or whatever, and that's all it is, then like that was valid. That was worth it.
Absolutely.
And if someone doesn't gain anything from it, that's okay too. Maybe when their friend is talking about feeling frustrated, they'll say, oh, I saw this person post this thing and it might help you. It didn't help me, but like maybe check it out. And you just like, these are just conversations that just need to be had.
Absolutely. Well, I think you're creating amazing conversations in your Instagram for sure. I think you're getting people thinking a little bit more about just overall the profession and their careers. And I think you need to do that from time to time, regardless if you are 100% happy or 2% happy. You need to keep thinking and asking yourself those questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I think asking yourself, like, this is part of living a intentional life, right? And just saying like, okay, time to reevaluate, because you know what? Every chapter of life holds different goals. And so gone are the days when we got one job and it was our job for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
Like my dad worked for one company for his entire career, and he was very lucky to do that. And it was a great path for him. But I have, by choice, I have not kept a job for more than 5 years. I mean, I haven't gotten fired, but like I haven't, like I've moved jobs like every 3 to 5 years, and I don't necessarily intend to do that now in my current job, but like, it's kind of the way that professional world works these days.
Yeah, it's so different. It's crazy. Like I even think of like dietitians that have, I mean, I know a few, they're much older than me, but have been in just one dietitian job their whole life. And I'm like, really? Huh. Like,
I know.
Perplexing to me.
And sometimes I wish I had that kind of like, perspective on like, I'm just like, I'm good. Like I got my thing and I'm good. And maybe I haven't found it yet, or maybe I'm just not that kind of person. I don't know. Yeah.
I know that would be kind of nice, but I just feel like just with all the opportunities that are out there for us in our profession, that I don't see people sticking in a job for 40 plus years.
No, I don't either. And I think that introduces a whole new host of conversations that need to be had, like how we onboard people, because we have a lot more people changing jobs, and onboarding is hard and people don't always do it very well. So I think, it introduces a whole other level of like professional conversations that need to be had, but it just, there's no getting around it. It is what it is.
For sure. Well, I'm excited to kind of see like where things go for you and Root and Rise Academy. And I always am an avid follower, and I hope that everyone listening, if you're not following Allison on Instagram, I will connect her in the show notes so you can get to her Instagram page and like her and follow her, because you are providing so much value to this space. And I can't imagine not following you at this point. So thank you so much for all you do.
Oh my gosh. See, I'm bad at, we're also not good at accepting compliments. Thank you. That is very kind of you, but my eye is twitching. Like as you say that, I'm like, oh,
she's breaking out a cold sweat. Her eyes twitching.
Oh, but I appreciate it. And I think this is just like all of these things, everything that I put out is, it's really coming, from a goal of helping and finding, we are all stronger when dietitians are happy, and like happy dietitian, happy life. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like we all just need like dietitians to find their place, so that, because we're such powerful beings. And so like, if we find our place where we can just plant ourselves and grow, like imagine what we could be. And that's what I want to see.
I think you're going to help make that happen, sister.
Well, I sure hope so.
All right. So I have to end with my 5 ending questions. I hope you're up for the challenge, my dear.
I'm ready.
All right. Share with me some foods that you enjoy.
Cheese.
You are from Wisconsin, though. That's
I am. Yep.
Do you have a favorite kind of cheese?
I mean, it depends on the day, but I always come back to Munster. Munster cheese.
That's a good one. I always forget about that. I always forget about Munster. Yeah.
It's salty and like not creamy. Like I like really strong cheeses too, but yeah, it's salty and creamy and just like, yeah. So Munster cheese, but other foods other than cheese. I love, it kind of depends on the season, but I am a salty foods person. Like I am that, like once I embraced, intuitive eating in my journey with food, I found out that like I am salty food all the way. Maybe salty food, salty personality. I don't know. But I just, anything like a good crunchy salty potato chip or a salty French fry or cheese or like I'm a savory food person.
It's good to recognize that though, because then you tend to like go to like the intuitive eating part. You tend to eat more of those foods and actually enjoy them more.
Yeah. No, I don't waste my time with sweets. Come on, I don't have time.
Yeah, there's no room for that. What beverages do you enjoy?
Depends on the hour of the day. If it's before 5 o'clock, it's usually coffee, or I am like a classic millennial sparkling water. And then if it's after 5 o'clock, it's usually a glass of wine or, I'm a big fan of like a cup of tea before bed. So water, coffee, wine, and tea.
I like it. Good. All good combinations for the time of day. Do you have a favorite scent or smell?
Ooh, favorite scent. Well, lilacs. Lilacs bloom on right around my birthday. So my birthday's in May, and growing up in the Midwest, lilacs were always blooming for my birthday, and my mom would always have a big vase of lilacs. And so the scent of like natural lilac, I don't like artificial lilac. I'm a purist.
Yes.
So the scent of natural lilacs and like spring just like equates, like reminds me of just love and family and my birthday and home. And beyond that, I think it is, I love the scent of Mrs. Meyer's basil.
Oh, yeah. That's so good.
Yeah. It's really specific, but I love it.
I do too. And I love lilacs too. And you're right. Like the real deal is the only smell for me too. But that Mrs. Meyer's basil is amazing.
Yeah.
I even got the dryer sheets. I like them so much. I like that smell so much.
I have not gotten the dryer sheets. Maybe I need to do that.
Yeah. And you can recycle them, which was another bonus. Like you can put them in your recycling bin. So I was like, sold.
Yeah.
What kind of music do you like to listen to, or what are you listening to right now?
It also depends on the day. So I grew up in band and in marching band and doing a little thing called drum corps. Ooh. And so I'm a big fan of, like really, how do I say this? Like really power, like really like music that just like movie scores, like music that when you listen to it, you like feel the emotion of the music. So I'm a big fan of that. And then I'm also a big fan of, like acoustic guitar music. And I'm a child of the 90s. So like Dave Matthews Band, I know that ages me, but it's just like, I just love it.
I do too.
I just end up going back to Dave Matthews Band.
It's hard not to, if you're a child of the 90s. That's how I am too. You never get sick of it.
Never. And then like, it's just like when you grow up listening to something and you're in college when it's on, it's like, oh man, that's just memories.
Takes you back. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Allison, what brings you joy in life?
What brings me joy in life? My family, my husband, my daughter, my dog, my 2 cats, being with them. We're kind of a circus, but we're a circus in the best possible way. And after spending time with my family, I'm going to be really honest, and I'm going to say sleep. Like I tell my husband, like my love language is sleep. Just let me sleep. I'm a night owl, not a morning person. And so like when he lets me like just like sleep until 9, and then like I wake up and the coffee's made, that's like, I mean, there's nothing better in life.
Well, at least he understands that then and makes the coffee and has it waiting for you.
Oh yeah. He's been around the block. He knows
the deal.
What's up. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate everything you do, this awesome conversation that we had. I think we definitely will connect, I know, in person for sure. I know you live really you live really close to me. So really like driving distance. So sometime I'm going to make my way to you so we can actually meet in person. But I just love everything that you're doing. So thank you. And thanks for your time.
Thanks so much. Right back at you. I love listening to the podcast, and I can't wait to hear this next kind of round of guests that are going to come out. You're the best. So I agree. We need to find a way to meet in person, and that would be so much fun.
Yes. I told another dietitian, and like, even like Jess too, is like, we need to have like a dietitian cheerleading camp that we can all like get together and rah and be woo woo a little bit. Cause I think we'd all connect really cool in person. So
yes,
maybe
I'll bring
someday.
The spirit stick. Yeah, I'll bring the spirit stick and the wine.
Perfect. All right, dear. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Thanks so much.
I'm very grateful for Allison. She has amazing insight, wisdom, and absolute realness when it comes to our profession. She shares great messaging and thought-provoking questions on her Instagram account, and I find myself appreciating the thought process I have after her post. I kind of look forward to them. It keeps me grounded and invested in my career. If you're in need of some help navigating your career at any point, you can find Allison's website and email address in the show notes. My website, AnnElizabethRD.com, is where you can read my latest Embrace the Hell Yeah blog post, as well as all my previous podcasts, show notes, and links to things we talked about during all my conversations with these great nutrition experts. My book is also available to purchase on my website, and I hope we can connect more on social media by finding me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest at AnnElizabethRD. Remember to be great always, find the joy in each day, and to start a conversation that truly matters.